Welcome to another edition of Dallas Social Toastmasters. We are back into the distancing mode here on Zoom, and I will be your Zoom facilitator for the evening, as well as your Toastmaster. We don't have any guests this evening, so unless Lee King has something that he wants to interject, I'm going to go ahead and show us the agenda, and I'll go over, again, a few of the ground rules for Zoom. Our agenda is located at our website, DallasSocialToastmasters.com. And it's over on the right-hand side, if you remember. Current agenda. And hopefully it'll load up the newest one. There'll still be some changes. Okay, so this is the newest one, and you can see that the theme for tonight is Toastmasters speech contests. We do have some adjustments this evening as far as duties. All that I'm showing right now are correct up until the evaluator for Rob Giles' speech, which is me. That would be, instead of Kim Crandall, it's gonna be Karen Lee. Everything else remains the same. We have a sparse crowd tonight, but we will persevere. And so again, that's at DallasSocialToastmasters.com under the current agenda. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing at this point.
Excuse me, Rob.
Yes, go ahead.
I saw Lee had 3 duties. I could pick up one of those if it lightened his load.
I know you have table topics, so that's a big thing, but if you want to, Lee, you can speak to that if you want.
Let's see, I am vote counter, timer, and posture monitor. I can do this one.
Okay. All right, you are the man.
Yeah, he is the man.
Unless it is, no, Justin's doing an evaluation, so.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm fine.
All right, so just some ground rules. If you're not speaking, please stay on mute. If you are speaking, obviously come off mute before you start speaking. When you are done, go back on mute. And if you have any questions, any issues, you can shoot a message to me in the chat. Looks like I'm having a little bit of a video lag every few seconds here. Hopefully that won't continue. But I want to move into our meeting for this evening. And first I want to go and say the Pledge of Allegiance. So I want to invite you to join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. And again, I mentioned that the theme tonight is Toastmasters speech contests. So I want to first, before we get into that, I want to go over this, our club mission, just so that we have a reminder of some of our purpose here as a club to our members. So I'm going to read this off. You can join me if you'd like. It's up to you. Our club mission: we provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. So that it's something that we need to keep in mind, and every once in a while, I guess, bring this up at the beginning of the meeting, especially when we have guests. But it's good for us to be reminded why we're here as a club and what we're here to do as far as supporting other members in their journey in Toastmasters. I also want to mention Toastmasters International core values. These are something that comes up just a few times every year outside of the club, but rarely do we mention it within the club. Occasionally we do. I know that Lee occasionally will mention it when he's going through some things, but we have 4 core values in Toastmasters International. The first one is integrity, which is adherent to a code of moral values. Another one is respect, to treat with a high or special regard. Another one is service. It's involving a contribution to the welfare of others. And finally, excellence, which talks about exceptionalism, bringing some exceptionalism to Toastmasters, having the quality of being exceptional. So these are core values of Toastmasters. They're really good core values to carry through life in general. And if you do adhere to these, then you're probably going to have a little bit better life, or at least have a little bit better perspective, and the people around you will enjoy being around you just a tad more, if not more. So, okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Well, yeah, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for the moment and get into what I wanted to talk about. And that is, again, is Toastmaster speech contests. I want to read off a paragraph of what is said at the beginning of a speech contest, at least beyond the club level. And some of you, I'm sure, have heard this, but I'm going to go through it. Speech contests are an important part of the Toastmasters educational program. Speech contests provide an opportunity for speakers to gain contest experience and to recognize the best speakers as an encouragement to everyone. Contests also provide an opportunity to learn by observing the more proficient speakers who have benefited from their Toastmasters training. This fall, we have 2 contests, as we normally do. This fall, we have Tall Tales, and I say fall, for us, it's fall at least for a little while, and then it's really fall. But we have Tall Tales speech contest, which is 3 to 5 minutes. It's an exaggerated story, basically, or it includes an exaggerated story. It must be original if you're going to give that speech. And you can participate in the contest if you are a current paid member. If Toastmasters International shows you as a current paid member, then you will qualify to compete. I will say this, last spring, we had one contestant in our area contest who had paid his dues at the beginning of March. However, they were for April through the end of September, and therefore he could not compete in March, and thus was ineligible to compete further on in the contest levels. So you have to be showing as paid for when you are, when you're giving that contest, not the future. So it's something that you don't really think about, and I didn't really think about it until that happened this past spring. So it's an interesting thing, but paid member is very important. The other speech contest that we'll have is a humorous speech contest, and that's 5 to 7 minutes. Should be funny. There's not really a requirement for it to be funny, but it must be a speech. It cannot be just a series of jokes or one-liners. It can't be a stand-up routine. It needs to have a purpose, and it must, like the Tall Tales, it must be original. There's only so much of it that you can take that isn't original. I want to say it's like 25%, but it's a kind of a subjective thing among judges. So you want to make sure that it's original. And again, just like the Tall Tales, you need to be a current paid member, showing as current for the time that you are about to be in the contest by Toastmasters International. The club contests winners will advance to the area contests. Again, this one's on the 9/11, so it's the fall, not quite summer at that point, or not quite fall at that point, but still summer. And the winners from the area contest will advance to the division contest, which will be in the fall. And then obviously the winners from the division contest advance to the district contest, which will, for these 2 contests, will actually be in the spring. That's when the district holds the district contest for these 2 contests, the Tall Tale speech and the humorous speech contests. So at this point, I want to go through our duty holders for the evening. And I would ask our duty holders to provide their descriptions for the duties that they're holding. First, we have Mr. Lee King, and he has generously agreed to take on 3 roles this evening. It is not totally unlike him to do this from time to time, but he is our timer, our vote counter, and our posture monitor. Mr. Lee King, distinguished Toastmaster, would you please go ahead and give us the descriptions of your 3 duties today?
Yes, so tonight I will be timing the various portions of the meeting, at which point when the person reaches their qualifying time, they'll see the green card, halfway through the yellow, and then finally the red, in which they have 30 seconds to wrap up. For posture monitor, I will be looking for the different uses of posture throughout the meeting and making notes, giving a report at the end of the meeting. And then finally, vote counter, just remember throughout this meeting, you will send a private chat to me as we guide you into the voting. And I will report on that at the end of the meeting. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
I'm sorry, did you go over your posture monitor duty?
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry. My head was in another place, I guess, thinking about contests. Our next duty holder for the evening is taking on double duty as well, or multiple duties and as well, is John Vessels. He is the odd counter and the grammarian this evening. John, would you please describe your duties as those duty roles this evening? Thank you.
Okay, everybody. Tonight I'm the odd counter, and what I'm going to be doing is listening to all the prepared speeches or all the speaking parts. And you listen for crutch words like so, too much, anything that distracts from your vocal style from speaking. Also for long pauses. Those might be part of a odd counter's issue. Also, the other part is I'm going to be the grammarian, and the grammarian, I'm going to listen for all the speaking roles and listen for good and bad uses of the English language. I'm also going to provide the word of the day, which today is exemplary, and it means serving as an example of excellence. Now you'll need to use that word exemplary during the table topic speeches, or try to fit it in any other time when you're speaking tonight. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, John. All right, before we get into the prepared speeches, I want to go over just a little bit more of contests. And as I mentioned, this fall we have the Tall Tales and the Humorous speech contests. Next winter/spring, we will have 2 more contests, including the International Speech Contest. The winner of the International Speech Contest for the district will actually compete from others outside the district for a chance to become the world champion of public speaking. And that's a big, I guess, a big honor to be able to do that, and even more so, a big accomplishment if you do become the world champion of public speaking. And we have had at least a couple, I believe, of world champion of public speaking coming out of our district. So who knows if that can happen for our club, or perhaps our area or division and our district coming in the spring down the road. I'll continue on with more information regarding our contest after our prepared speakers give their speeches, but let's go ahead and move into the prepared speeches at this time. And our first prepared speaker is going to be myself, Rob Giles, and my evaluator for the evening is Miss Karen Lee. Karen, would you please give my objectives for the evening? Karen, you are muted. And Karen, you're welcome to introduce me if you'd like when you're done with my objectives. Otherwise, I'll introduce myself.
There we go. Okay. The purpose of Rob's speech tonight is something that he defined himself, and he has to present a well-organized, well-supported speech on any topic. And his title is Fair Share. And Rob Giles, Fair Share.
Thank you very much. What's fair? I hear phrases like, do what's fair, or it's only fair, or that phrase, fair share. And I have ideas in my head about what's fair and what a fair share is, but it only works for certain things as far as I'm concerned. And I get confused when I reach one particular thing when it comes to that term, fair share. I want to go through a few things that make sense to me about what's fair and what's a fair share, and have that lead into something specific that I have trouble with. And perhaps when I'm done and you've listened to this, perhaps you can come to me personally and you can explain to me what fair share is in regard to this specific thing. But let's go ahead and start with what constitutes a fair share. Let me just say that. I looked up on Merriam, and it stated that fair share is reasonable amount or excessive. It's moderate. It's in accordance with reason. And that makes sense to me. I don't know whether that makes great sense to you, but it definitely makes sense to me. I want to bring something up that might represent something that is fair and what could be fair and what is fair, and maybe a little anecdote or a little story that I'm going to make up here. So let's say that I were to come up with an idea to create a business, and I pulled some people in. Let's say that I pulled in Mark Schroeder, I pulled in John Vessels, and I pulled in Karen Lee, and we all got together and I said, hey, this is my idea. I want you guys to come in because I know I need you guys in order to get this going, and we're going to create this company and create this product. But all four of us are needed in order to get this done. And I convince them to do it. And I say, but the only thing that we need to come up with an investment to begin and start this, but it's going to be $100,000. So we got to figure out a way to do this. And the only thing that I could think of was just to split it up fairly, right? 25% for each of us. So that's $25K for each of us in order to get it started. We'll all invest that $25K, and that's great. But then after we thought about it for a little while, Karen came and said, you know what? Mark and John, they have a lot of other income that is coming in, and they're making a lot more money than me on my normal business. I think probably they should invest more than I invest. I can't invest, all of that. So why don't we change things up to do that? And of course, for myself, I thought, this is great for me. I don't necessarily, I can't really afford $25K. Maybe this will benefit me as well. And I can put in less and still get the same stuff out of it. And we thought about that and thought, all right, well, maybe that'll work. And then John and Mark stepped aside and they thought about things, and they thought, we can do that, but why don't we do it this way? Why don't we say that we'll invest 35% each? John will do it and Mark will do it. And Rob and Karen will go ahead and they'll put in 15% each. And that'll reach that 100K. But they said, but there's one stipulation. When the product comes out and the income's coming in, the revenue's coming in and all of that, we get the same percentage out. So if we put that investment in, we're going to get that same percentage out. So we're going to get 35% out, and Karen and Rob are only going to get 15% out. And I thought, well, it's not what I was hoping for, but I guess I'll do it. That seems fair, right? That makes sense to me. That's fair. It seems like a fair share thing, right? And So, you know, we go about doing that and everybody gets it. Everybody's working hard. Everybody's working equally. You know, invests everything physically and mentally equally, and everybody gets everything back. And it's great. Everybody's having a great, I guess, advantage from creating this company, this product. But after we start getting that revenue in, we start to think about the tax from that. And think about what's being taken out as far as taxes are concerned. And I'm going to get to that a little bit later because that's where some of my confusion comes in. But it made me think about fair share. What is fair share? So I think dollars in and dollars out, you know, as long as that percentage remains the same, then I think that's a fair thing to me. But what happens when Uncle Sam comes around and he starts asking us for his fair share? Of course, we are all, to some extent, the collective Uncle Sam. But I'm referring to taxes, and I don't like taxes, but I understand their use to some extent, usefulness. I can understand sales tax. That's something that I definitely understand. So let's say that I pay for something that's $10 and the sales tax is 10%. So I'm paying $1 in tax. If Mark Schroeder goes and he buys something for $1,000, he pays 10% tax on that. Same percentage, right? But he's paying $100, so he's paying more. I still consider that fair. It's a larger amount of product. You know, he still has that. So in my mind, that seems fair. That's a fair share, right? But ultimately, it leads me to income tax. And this is something that has always boggled my mind as far as what people consider to be a fair share. I can't understand it. To me, a fair share would be the same percentage for everybody, right? Because if I have income of 10,000 and I give 20%, that's a certain amount of dollars. And if, let's say again, Mark Schroeder comes in and let's say his income is $100,000, if he still gives 20%, he's paying a lot more. To me, that's fair. That's a fair share. But in our world and in our society, that doesn't seem to be what people consider to be fair. And that's what leads me to confusion. So I'm wondering if possibly it leads you to confusion as well. And if not, maybe you can explain to me, because for me, fair share, money in, money out, percentage, that seems to be the way to go, equal, same for everybody. But it is a bit confusing to me and a little bizarre, if you ask me. Thank you. At this point, we will move to our second prepared speech. And our second prepared speech is by Mark Schroeder. His evaluator for the evening is Mr. Justin Faust. Justin, would you please provide us with Mark Schroeder's objectives for his speech tonight?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Rob, Toastmaster. So Mark Schroeder's objective is to give a general evaluation of what you thought plus you think of as a speech with passion speech. So his speech name is The Boss 5-7. So Mark Schroeder.
Mark Schroeder, the boss, Mark Schroeder.
One quick second while I change backgrounds, please. Or at least get ready to. All right, I think I'm ready. Welcome, everyone. We're going to talk about pre-workouts tonight. I'm a big fan of pre-workouts, and I like workouts with a lot of stimulants in them, because if you're going to work out, you might as well get something out of it. Tonight, we're going to talk about El Jefe the Boss. This is by ASC Supplements. And first of all, what we always do is we talk about what's on the label. So let's look at the label. First of all, on the label, Labels are only labels. They're not good for anything. They're just labels, but we have to look at them anyway. First, what you see is it's labeled for 1 scoops or 2 scoops. We're not going to worry about the 1 scoop. We're going to go with the 2 scoops because everybody wants the max. So citrulline malate, 7 grams. That's more than a clinical dose. A clinical dose is about 6. So that's really maxed out. Beta alanine, 4 grams. Also maxed out. Beta alanine is going to give you that tingle, that little pins and needles effect on your neck and on your face. You're going to feel like you're scratching your face off when you're doing this. Both of those are for fatigue. They help you to survive with fatigue. And this stuff is really, really good for that. When it comes down to the betaine and hydrous, betaine is one of those things for giving you maximum pumps. So you're getting out there and you're really building up the pumps and the muscles are getting bigger. The taurine. Taurine is actually a little bit of a stimulant, but it's also in here under the performance and pump. Arginine. Arginine builds up to NO2. NO2 is going to be able to drain off all of the bad things like the lactic acid and the other things that build up in your muscles. So that's what the arginine is there for NO2. And then we get into the Hephistim matrix. People, if you want stimulants, you got stimulants here. Take a look. You've got caffeine anhydrous. Caffeine anhydrous is 100% caffeine. And this is proprietary label. We don't know exactly how much, but it's got a lot. Theobromine, also caffeine by another name. Look a little further, dicaffeine maleate. That's another caffeine. So this has got caffeine, caffeine, and caffeine. Urea jorensis. I don't know what urea jorensis is, but let me tell you, people, I took this at 8 p.m. I went and worked out. I ended up thinking I totally metabolized this stuff at 4 a.m. I am still wide awake. That's what's in El Jefe. This stuff is amazing. But again, this is only the label, and labels are nothing but junk. So let's talk about how it really behaves in the gym. First of all, the taste. This is orange creamsicle. It's okay. I've had worse, I've had better. If you're interested in the taste, you're not supposed to be doing pre-workouts. Choke it down, get it down. It's not about the taste, it's about what it does for you. This stuff did not elevate my mood. It did not make me angry. What this made me was this made me focused and motivated more than anything else. It hits you really hard during that first couple minutes. What you end up with is again, your whole face starts going red and it tingles to where you want to scratch your face off until you get those weights in your hand the first time. That disappears the moment you really start pushing though. There's another brand called God of the Gym. This should really be God of the Gym. This stuff is amazing. When you get in there and you see weights, all you want to do is move them from one side to the other and then move them back because you know you can do it. This stuff gives you amazing pumps. On this stuff, on the glute or hip raiser machine, I did 190 pounds for the first time, personal record. I weigh 170. I did 190 on this stuff. Just amazing. So with regard to the feeling that you get, it's there for the entire workout. I don't care if you work out an hour, 2 hours, it stays there. It stays with you the entire time. So one way or another, you're going to be good for the entire workout. With regard to after the workout, this stuff, again, oh man, it stays with you. I really thought I had metabolized it all out of my system. I worked for an hour and a half or 90 minutes thinking it was all gone. Not all gone. I was still 2 hours later, I'm still having chills. It has alpha yo in it. Not everybody's sensitive to alpha yo. I'm one of the people sensitive to alpha yo. And it gives me chills multiple times after doing this stuff, hours after my workout is over. And again, I was still up, no questions asked, 4 a.m. trying to go to sleep. Completely wide awake. No effort at all trying to get to sleep. So this is definitely one of the workouts that is in my top 5. The only thing that is missing is DMAA, dimethylamylamine. Sadly, dimethylamylamine, well, FDA decided it was going to be banned. So what did they do? They put in the urea genesis. I think the urea genesis is the thing that replaces it. Both of them, it turns out, well, they seem to hit methamphetamine sensors in the brain. That's probably how they work, but that's okay. Totally legal. This one is. DMAA, not so legal anymore. So you don't buy DMAA unless you're willing to take the risk. Buy this stuff. Otherwise, this is one of the best you're going to find. Reasonable price. In my top 5, if you're a stim junkie, this is what I would recommend. Clinical doses of everything. It's going to give you pumps, going to give you energy, going to give you focus, and you are going to have an amazing day at the gym. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Mark. Or should I say boss or El Jefe? At this point, I would like to get a timer's report. Lee, did our contestants qualify on time?
Unfortunately, Rob Giles disqualified at 7 minutes and 32 seconds. Mark Schroeder qualified at 5 minutes and 18 seconds. 6 minutes and 18 seconds.
Okay, so that's too bad that Rob Giles couldn't quite squeeze that in there. Had to put in that one extra sentence and couldn't get it done. But you are welcome to send comments to both Mark and to Rob, if you prefer, in a private chat, or you can say it to the whole group, that's fine. And we will get the evaluators later in the program tonight. I really appreciate that speech by Mark. That was very, very awakening. So I would like to.
No idea what happened with the volume on that one. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, we'll see. It sounded pretty good. So, all right. At this point, I want to just talk about a few things more before we move into our next section of our meeting. And I'm going to share my screen again and talk about the contests, specifically our contest, our club contest. And I want to say that our fall club contest for Dallas Social Toastmasters, as mentioned in previous meetings, is going to be on Thursday, August 26th. So it is not far away. We still are going to do it through Zoom, and it will take the place of our normal meeting agenda, provided that something else happens. And we'll get to that again in a second. But the next thing that we have to consider is contestants, because we need to have contestants to have a contest. I implore everybody to stretch yourselves. It's a great opportunity to try something new, whether it's a tall tales or a humorous speech, or something perhaps that you have not tried before or could improve upon in those realms. And remember, you're doing it in a supportive environment. So as some comics do, you can fall flat on your face, but understand that we're here to support you, or at least maybe to laugh once you've fallen on your face. Hopefully not. We're Toastmasters. I want to also say that we need something other than contestants. We need helpers. We do have a contest chair, Mr. Dagan Newland. He's not here this evening, but he's the contest chair. So he's in charge of getting these helpers, and we can always assist him with that by volunteering or by helping to search and find them. But we do need a contest master. We do need 2 ballot counters, 2 timers, 1 senior sergeant at arms who is also the Zoom facilitator, or also known as Zoom master, and then a sergeant at arms to help that senior sergeant at arms out. We also will need a chief judge, which we hope to get from outside the club, and I'll try to help with that if I can find somebody. And obviously judges, which again, we also hope to get from outside the club if possible. I mean, we can, if push comes to shove, we can do it a lot of different ways. At the club level, you have a lot of opportunities, a lot of different things that you can do. But again, all of these things are moot if we don't do something first, and that is get contestants. So we need contestants. Again, tall tales speech and humorous speech. Give it a shot. That's my suggestion. Try it out. If you haven't done it before, if I could do it, I would, but because I'm an area director, I'm not qualified to to participate. So at this point, we're going to move into the second portion of our meeting tonight, which is our table topics. Our table topics master is the other Mark, at least the other Mark in order of appearance tonight, and that is Mr. Mark Sims. Please help me to welcome him as topic master. Mark.
Thank you, Rob. And this is Table Topics. You will get, if called upon, an opportunity to speak off the cuff, to respond to a question maybe you're not anticipating, and to think on your feet, an attribute that can help you greatly in your career and other roles in life. And there are a couple of things to keep in mind: that you need to speak for at least 1 minute, and then no more than a maximum of 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes being the maximum with an additional 30-second grace period. And you need to use the word of the day in order to win the competition. And the word of the day is exemplary. And if you want to get off subject, off the question you're responding to, and just to say Mark Sims is exemplary, you're free to do that. In fact, you would be encouraged to do that. So just throwing it out there. And my first question tonight, and these questions are roughly along the lines of the theme for tonight. Contest in general, whether it's a speech contest, whether it's an athletic contest, it may make you say, man, this is great, I get to compete, sounds fun. It could make you go, oh no, why? Especially maybe if you need to be involved in it and you didn't have a choice. I would like to ask John Vessels, contest in general, are you thinking sounds great or oh no? John.
Yeah, well, it sounds great. I haven't participated in a few contests, and I think I got through area. I got through one level and then didn't make it. I forget if it's area, then district, or what. But anyway, I did make it up one running contest. I thought I did an exemplary job at the third level, but they didn't seem to think so. It was the person with the big speech about the homeless man he helped on the street, and it was so, how can I put it, good-hearted that he won, I think, just out of mere pity. Anyway, sorry, that was rude, but that's how I felt. But anyway, I think this year Dagan has already asked me to be the contest master, so I won't be competing. If I'm going to be the contest master, I won't be competing in the competition. So that's me. Back to you, Mark.
Thank you, John. I guess you could always give like the anti-speech, talk about the homeless person that you jeered at or something like that. Or the Girl Scout, person selling Girl Scout cookies that you intentionally didn't buy from. No, just kidding. Question number 2. In thinking about humorous speeches, humor differs from person to person. I mean, I just made a weak attempt at humor. Some people may have liked, or some people may have thought, man, it was uncalled for. But it may be that the kind of things that you normally laugh at in real life would guide the speech you make. And you might get your sources from people you see on TV, see in the movies. I would like to ask along those lines, Rob Giles, who is his favorite comedian?
Mark Sims, that is an exemplary question. I have a couple of favorites as far as comedians are concerned. I can't say that I have a favorite among these two, but I will lean one way or another depending on, I guess, who I'm watching them with. The first one is a gentleman by the name of Brian Regan. And one of the reasons why I love his act is because, one, it's a clean act. There's no foul language. Maybe the worst thing that he says is hell. That might be the worst thing he says, or damn. You know, there's nothing, no vulgarity at all, nothing, no profanity, nothing like that. So I love him, and I recommend anybody looking him up on YouTube. He has some great skits that even go back to when he was in high school, and it's somewhat self-deprecating throughout his routine. The other comedian that I love is Jim Gaffigan. And part of this that I do love it, and it depends on who I'm with when I'm watching him, but is that he does sometimes make some humorous points about the Catholic Church. And then he also makes points regarding some of his eating habits. And I always love his routine. I would say both of them are exemplary comedians. Even his routine is not very vulgar, but I could not choose between the two of them, whether it was Brian Regan or Jim Gaffigan. I love them both. If I had to say, you know, they're both number one for me. Back to you, Mr. Topic Master.
Thank you, Rob. At this point, I want to ask a very experienced speaker who's given a lot of speeches. Lee King, what's the funniest speech you've ever given?
Mark Schroeder, can you time me?
One moment, please.
I can do.
Yes, I can. I just have to get to it again. Proceed.
Great question, Mr. Table Topics Master. I've given an awful lot of speeches. It's hard for me to think of the most exemplary humorous speech that I've ever given. I think probably one of my more favorite ones that I've given was actually one back when I was a new member in Toastmasters, and actually I used it in a speech contest, and it was a montage of Dr. Seuss books that go through my mind when I am working with patients in therapy. It received a lot of good laughs, a lot of good applause. I did get second place in the area contest when I competed in that area. And unfortunately, I remember parts of it. I don't remember other parts of it. And I don't really have access to the speech. I wish that I did, because there are definitely things that I would want to incorporate if I were to redo that speech. But that's been over 14, 15 years ago. We'll see. Maybe I can rework it at some point in time. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Lee. The thought of trying to give a really creative speech like Tall Tales, or trying to give a funny speech that may make you think, man, this is a great challenge. It may disconcert you. Now, I have heard Karen Lee over the years participate a couple of times in humorous speech or tall tale competitions. And I'd like to ask Karen her attitude or towards out of the box speeches like humor or tall tales. Does it sound like a lot of fun, or is it a little bit scary? Karen.
The question is, what is my attitude toward out-of-the-box speeches? Or humorous or tall tales?
Yeah.
I tend to want to favor giving speeches that are prepared instead of out of the box. And I feel I can do a more exemplary job of giving a speech when I've had time to prepare. On the other hand, I did go to a contest years ago, and I believe Lee was there. And this particular contest, I was there to participate as a duty holder. When I showed up, none of our club participants who were supposed to be participating in the contest had come. So Lee asked me if I wanted to participate in the contest. I cannot tell you now what the particular contest was. I did give a speech about our summer vacation, and then I also participated in whatever the other part of the contest was. Totally unprepared, and the whole process was very nerve-wracking, but I did complete the speeches, and the whole world didn't come to an end. Back to you, Mr. Toastmasters Master.
Thank you, Karen. And for this next question, again, part of this upcoming contest, one of the options is the tall tales. And we may think about when we were children and read tall tale stories like Paul Bunyan, someone like that. And I'd like to ask Justin, do you have a particular tall tale that is a favorite of yours?
Particular tall tale. Me think back to my childhood. Do I have an exemplar tall tale from my childhood? I would say my favorite book growing up, it wasn't exactly a tall tale, was definitely The Hobbit. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thought it was a great movie. Also, they really did a really good job of transforming the book into the movie. It was very interesting because if you read the Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Hobbit is the first introduction into it. So it was very, very interesting, the book was. And I definitely learned a lot about, I guess, the tall tale of the medieval times and how the hobbits dealt with the elves and different other groups. I think it was the elves and the dwarfs, and I think they were like wizards too, and like dragons and all types of craziness, basically. So I definitely enjoyed that tall tale. It was exemplary, and it was a great read. Thank you, Topic Master Mark.
Thank you, Justin. At this time, I'd like to ask our grammarian if everyone used the word of the day.
Yes, Mr. Topic Master, everyone used the word of the day, exemplary.
Except who?
Not except they used the word exemplary. Everybody did.
Oh, exemplary.
Oh.
I got you. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
And I would like to ask Lee, did everyone qualify on time?
Unqualified at 1 minute, 12 seconds. Rob at 1 minute, 53 seconds. I qualified at 1:19. Karen at 1 minute, 39 seconds. And Justin at 1:24. So please go ahead and cast your vote.
Okay. And I can give a brief on who spoke on what. John Vessels gave us his take on whether contests in general were fun or oh no. Karen talked about her attitudes towards out-of-the-box speeches, such as tall tales or scary. Lee King talked about the most humorous speech he's ever given. Rob discussed his favorite comedians, and Justin talked about his favorite tall tale. And so between those options, please email, or not email, but send by private chat your vote to Lee King, which I'm about to do that. And Lee consent. And Lee will compile the votes. And this time, while he is doing that, that concludes the, I'm trying to say tall tales, table topics competition. And we will move into the evaluation portion of the meeting. And that will be led by Mark Schroeder.
Thank you so much, Mark. All right, so we are now at the third portion of our meeting tonight, number 3. Got to get all my fingers here because if I put them over there, some of them disappear, and we don't want the wrong 2 to disappear. What I have to do now is I have to go through a couple of speech evaluations. And if you will, give me just a second because I'm going to go ahead and pull up the agenda so that I've got it. I've been doing too many things tonight. Let me grab a copy of the agenda. We're going to have 2 speech evaluators, and then we're going to have an evaluation of the meeting as a whole. And of course, we'll go through duty holders as well. Our first speaker tonight was Rob Giles. Rob's evaluator was, oh dear.
Karen.
Karen, yes, sorry. It still says Kim. That's what I get for pulling up the agenda. Is going to be Karen Lee. Karen, please go ahead and give your evaluation of what you thought of Rob's speech tonight.
Fellow Toastmasters, and especially Rob. I thought Rob delivered an exemplary speech in very little time, given very little time to prepare. My understanding is that we did not have any prepared speakers this evening since we were earlier during the day. At least I saw a message on WhatsApp. And I thought Rob excelled at delivering an organized speech about a very hard topic. How does anyone explain fair? And I thought the use of percentages helped make the idea of fair share a lot easier to understand in my mind. He also used great hand gestures. I would also just make a few recommendations, things to work on. Rob went a couple of seconds past his qualifying time. So he might have left out a little bit of material in order to meet his qualifying objective. And I also recommend a little bit of research about taxes. He had mentioned that in his speech. I know taxes are very difficult for me to understand as well. But in conclusion, Rob did deliver an exemplary speech given the short amount of time that he had to prepare. And he also talked about a very difficult subject. So what is fair? And I think he gave us some very good ideas about using percentages in order to understand and to make explain his fair share. So back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Karen. All right, so that's our first speech evaluation. Our second speaker was Mark Schroeder, me, and my evaluator this evening was Justin Faust. Justin, please give your evaluation of my performance tonight.
Yes, thank you, General Evaluator. So I'm gonna start off structured during this general evaluation. So three, thank you, you did excellent. 2 things you need to improve on. 1 thing to challenge you with. So though this speech was hands and away the most funny speech I ever heard so far. It was hilarious. The props were amazing. You even went away for a second and then challenged, like, why is he wearing a tank top? I'm like, oh, he's showing off the guns. Okay, it's the gun show today. So great use of props, great use of the supplement facts. This speech was just hilarious. At the beginning, you explained the subject matter. That was pretty good. So you did like a summary of the speech during the beginning. Very animated, very passionate, very funny, great use of vocab. you really sold me on the pre-workout. I work out too, and I never use pre-workout, so I might actually start taking some up. So, you know, definitely sold me on it. 2 things you need to work on. I know this was like a last-minute speech, so I guess maybe be a bit more organized or structured, but I mean, because it was last minute, that's kind of understandable. And I guess the same thing to challenge you on, just be a bit more structured than organized. But I love this speech. It was hilarious. Luckily I was on mute because I was laughing the entire time. So thank you, General Evaluator.
Thank you so much, Justin. I happen to be able to see you, and I noticed that you were cracking up during some of it. But yeah, definitely, let me tell you, it makes a difference. When I go in without a pre-workout to do weights, I get through about 1 or 2 sets and I'm going, when can I go home? For God's sakes, when can I go home? When I take this stuff, hour and a half, I'm going, well, I could go over there and do a few more of that, but I really ought to go home. It's been an hour and a half already. Makes a huge difference in my motivation. We can talk about all that later. All right, so we've got 2 speech evaluations. Need to call for a timer's report. Timer, how did our speech evaluators do tonight? Timer.
There we go. Both.
Yeah, there you are.
Yeah, there we go. Both evaluators qualified on time. Karen was 1 minute 54 seconds, and Justin was 1 minute 42 seconds.
All right, excellent. So that means both of our evaluators tonight, both Karen and Justin, are eligible for our virtual ribbon. Please, if you will, go ahead and cast your votes, sending them in private chat to Leaking. Give everybody just a moment to do that. All right, so the agenda says that duty holders reports and then general evaluators, but I'm going to go ahead and do the general evaluators reports. That way I give the duty holders another crack at me. I'm going to start with the beginning of the meeting, of course, and pretty much go through straight through. It was a scramble, at least for me, and it was a scramble for everybody this week because on Tuesday night, we obviously learned that Dallas County had gone red and we had to readjust everything. So we've had a ton of changes and a ton of turnover. We've got a small crew tonight. All of this is due to last minute changes that were unavoidable, but we are here. We made it work. Started a little bit late. We were waiting for a few people and wondering if we would have a few extras now that we were back virtual, hoping we'd pick up a few. Have no problem with waiting under the circumstances just to make sure. Going to start with some comments from Rob. I thought you did a very good job of introducing what contest is and all of the aspects of contest, especially for, excuse me, for any people who are new to the club. And you certainly knew that you might have new members here tonight. Didn't have as many as we might have hoped for, but you do have some. Very good introduction to what a contest is and what the particular contests that make up this one entail. So that was very good. I really also like the fact that you as a speaker needed to have Karen be your evaluator, and as at the end of her introduction, go ahead and introduce you so you didn't have to introduce yourself. That's one of those think ahead type things. You did a very good job of doing that and making sure that that happened. So that kudos for that. Let's see. Oh, the one thing that was maybe missing as a Zoom master in general was a reminder to speakers to make sure that they can see their timer. And when I started speaking, my first thought was, oh my God, where is my timer? And is it on the screen? Is it somebody who's on the screen? And I forgot, to be honest, who it was. I did click back and forth just to see if anything was green a couple of times because I wasn't sure how long I had gone. I forgot to set my own timer. I was so flying. Personally, I will admit that even though we are a small crew tonight, I'm glad we had nobody from the district here tonight. There's no way. Every time I do one of these kinds of speeches, I really don't want anybody from the district here. I'd like to keep my membership with Toastmasters. Table topics, I thought you did a very good job on the questions that you chose, Mark. They were good questions. They were generally something that almost anybody could answer. And that's what you're looking for. This is not really, stump the person when you're asking questions. You're supposed to ask generic enough that everybody will have a good answer. You did. You also, as I recall, used the word of the day even in your description or in your follow-up right after it. So no, I'll take that back. What I was going to say was everybody used the word of the day. I couldn't read my own notes. Everybody used the word of the day. Everybody did a great job. That means that the word picked was a very good job of picking a word that was usable in a lot of contexts. So large success to our grammarian or whoever picked our word of the day today. I do have a question about one of your questions, though, Mark. You used the phrase out of the box, having a thing to do with out of the box speeches. And to me, out of the box means no preparation, no installation, no extra. Basically, you take it out and it just works. I think of that FedEx speech where you absolutely positively have to have a speech overnight. That's kind of an out of the box speech. One that is rehearsed is not out of the box, almost by definition. And so Tall Tales is not out of the box because people rehearse those. So I had a little bit of a disconnect on the phrase what out of the box means as an idiom, at least to me. There is another phrase that maybe you were looking for. Maybe it is another usage of that idiom, but the phrase basically means out of the ordinary or out of the usual, which of course Tall Tales is. And I'm trying to think of exactly, there is another idiom for that, but I don't think out of the box was the one you wanted. Let's see, Karen, I love the fact that you gave a lot of specifics. You talked about the percentages and how the percentages helped you to understand. You did say great gestures, but you did not give a single example of what the great gestures were. I would have appreciated and I think been more effective if you had given an example of when you did this or whatever that was, whether it was hands, whether it was something you did with his face, but whatever. Would have been better to just have an example. I also like the comment about research, that would be that doing a little bit more research. I thought that was a good suggestion. You did end on a positive note and managed to work the word of the day in. So congratulations on all of that. Justin, very good. Starting off with the 3, 2, 1 so that we knew exactly the plan that you were going to use and you did follow it. I like the comment about organization and structure, and yeah, you're right. I was literally putting the outline together while I was trying to wolf down a hook and ladder firehouse sub 15 minutes before getting on Zoom. So yes, it could have used a lot more organization and a lot more structure and planning. You also, however, ended on a very positive note, and the fact that you were laughing and enjoyed it, that makes it all worthwhile. That's part of why we do this. That's going to conclude my report for this evening. So as general evaluator, I now get to call on our duty holders. Let's start with the posture monitor. Posture monitor, how did we do tonight?
Outside of the speeches, I didn't really catch anything out of the ordinarily good or not good, but both speakers did make good use of posture. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
All right, and I'll counter. How did we do on our verbal crutches tonight?
Well, we seem to have a new series coming up. So we've expanded on our so's that we're using way too much. You used them a few times. Rob did 2 so-us. Justin picked up a so it's like so let's get rid of those kind of things. I know I'm the worst about sewing, but that's, it's something I've got to work on because it seems to be everywhere with us now. Other than that, everybody did a pretty decent job. Couple of ums here and there, but not too much. And then I'll go ahead and move into my grammarian.
Please do.
Yeah, so my grammarian, I have a couple of things I like to note. Everybody did a pretty good job with grammar. I didn't really hear too much bad, but I did like Lee's word of the use, montage, when he was talking about the speeches earlier, and I like that word. I like Justin's the gun show. That's always kind of a really visual thing that brings us all back to muscle. And that's pretty much it. Everything else was good.
All right. Let's see, I think that concludes our duty holders reports. It does. And so we have one final duty that I have to perform, which is going to be the vote for the best of the big three tonight. Excuse me. The big three, of course, being our Toastmaster, Rob Giles, our table topics master, which is Mark Sims, and finally, general evaluator, myself, Mark Schroeder. So Rob Giles, Mark Sims, or Mark Schroeder. If you would, please cast your votes back to Lee King in private chat. And if you're going to cast it for a Mark, do not put Mark, do not put Mark S. You have to put either Sims or Schroeder enough to disambiguate.
All right, and then I guess we'll go into the business meeting. And really, all of the business we've pretty much covered. And I think Rob did a very thorough job of talking about contests. That's really the only thing to discuss during the business meeting. However, really everyone here except for Justin is an officer, and Justin, you're more than welcome to stay. I considered asking about doing an officers meeting either on Sunday night or Monday, but considering that we're all officers here, Justin, again, you're more than welcome to stay. I figured we'll just do the officers meeting here real quick. Karen, considering that we're going back to Zoom, we have just decided to go ahead and just leave you as Sergeant at Arms for now. So congratulations. Just a couple of very brief things. Yes, we're back in red. Yes, the club voted that if it's red, then we're meeting via Zoom. One thing that we had considered is, well, one option that we have is perhaps going to Ozona and doing an outdoor meeting. They have consented to having the patio for that. So my hope was to get a better pulse of the club as far as who would be interested in doing an outdoor meeting, period. I guess I'll just ask you all, but then we'll have to readdress this question when we have more members here. Obviously, next week is supposed to be 100 degrees outside. Clearly that's not going to work. I think that at some point we'd have to, if we were going to seriously consider doing an outdoor meeting, we would have to consider what is considered decent weather, which would host a whole nother discussion. But at this point, if the weather was appropriate, how many of you would be interested in hosting a outdoor meeting? Rob can check the TV outside to see if we can continue that as a hybrid meeting. So Rob, that's a yes.
Yeah,
okay, anybody else?
I could probably say the same thing. It's one of those trying to do the best we can to keep Ozonas going and keep our relationship with them is part of what I'm concerned about after we've come back and disappeared again. If there's a way, I think it would be worthwhile. This would have been a good week at 88 degrees if it weren't for the fact that we thought it was going to rain. The one thing you did not mention is we will not be able to get that area all to ourselves. It has to remain open to the rest of the public. And when Rob went in there just looking around, I figured because of where it is on that north side, if you don't know where it is, there's a small patio on the north side of Ozona's. I was a little surprised that Rob found 6 people in it because when we've been in there, otherwise it's been pretty empty. So I was just a little bit surprised at that, but it is what it is. It is at least an alternative to keep it. Maybe we only do it once a month or every other. I don't want to get into an every other week or anything like that, because we'll end up with people in the wrong place every time. I mean, that's as bad as being an every other week club and nobody knows what week you're meeting. But something.
Yeah, I would agree. It would be one of those things that certainly if this thing drags on for months on end, then we'd be interested in doing like a once a month thing. So let me go ahead and just see a show of hands. Again, this is just, it's not a vote. This is just, are you interested in it? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so pretty much everybody on the call would be open to the idea. I will, again, like I said, pose this question again next week, when hopefully we have more members, and we'll kind of go from there.
Excuse me, Lee.
Yeah.
One thing, for starters, the obvious, it's beyond frustrating that we're having to regress, especially since we've started to get some decent crowds and then several new members and guests attending. So I think we were on the verge of being able to start to really build something if fate hadn't interfered. It's one thing for me to, and definitely I'll support the club and if we try and make something like this work, but I think I'd be really reluctant to say, hey, come on out and join us at a Toastmasters meeting to some potential members if the county is in red status, because that might be an obvious question as well as is safe. And again, it's one thing for me to do that, but I think we probably ought to have some reluctance in trying to get strangers to come out. Again, it's kind of a contradiction to say, come on out, join us, and then the county's red. But I'll definitely try and support the club. But I'm just bummed, like everyone else is, that we're going backwards, because we were, I think, really starting to do well.
So just to kind of relieve some anxiety, I know that Sarah said that she could not be here this week either way that it went, but my sense was that she was planning on joining either way. She certainly understood that if it goes red, then it would probably be more prudent to do online versus in person. And then my understanding is Mark Schroeder's friend was going to join us. So, but I know he's been laid off, so I don't know if he got tied up with some other stuff. But
yeah, I did not talk with him today to know if he was going to make it. Wait a minute, he did send me something though. Let me take a quick look. Because I do believe I got, oh, wait a minute, would have been the other email.
And while Mark's looking at that, just to let you know, Wes was intending to come tonight, and then he just had work that he had to take care of.
Yeah, I saw that. I think he sent that out to the WhatsApp group or something.
Okay.
Okay, Tom Taricki said he would miss tonight because he has out-of-town relatives visiting. We'll catch virtually next week.
Okay.
That's encouraging.
Yeah, so the encouraging thing is, I think of the newest members that we potentially would be picking up, this will not affect them, so that's good. So we can definitely look at that more. We'll discuss that a little bit more. The other thing that obviously we need to talk about would be dues, because it's that time again. And unfortunately, it looks like we're back on Zoom. So I know last time we discounted dues. Question is, do we do that again or not? I just, again, want to kind of get a pulse on what y'all are thinking. I mean, dues are not technically due until October the 1st. So I don't know if we want to kind of make a decision on a dollar figure tonight, or do we want to kind of discuss the matter and then see how things are trending over the month of August?
I think we ought to wait and discuss it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
so
we also have an issue of if we've charged anybody 90 and we're back virtual, we may have to, we may need to do the right thing and reverse it back to 75 for them. I don't know what we've done.
Well, to date, I don't believe anybody's paid dues. That's actually one reason why
What about new members? Do we have any new members pay at 90?
I don't think we have any new member. Nobody, I don't think, paid.
It would have been Wes, I guess.
Wes might have, because we were in person then. I don't think we saw him before in person.
No, but I think he just paid for the 1 month or through the end.
Okay, we need to check on that one.
He didn't renew for the 6 months.
Have the treasurer here so we know for sure.
Yeah, we just need to check on that one.
Yeah,
we got to do the right thing, whatever the right thing is. You know, if we charge the higher amount.
Okay, so then what I guess I would propose is that we email out to the club that we asked that they just not hold off on paying their dues for the moment, and until we see if this is looking more like virtual versus online, because I don't know if Regan can easily go back and refund people money.
Right. Yeah, I know it's difficult for him to do that.
So unless we want to make a decision tonight, then I would say that we just kind of ask Regan to maybe send out something just saying to kind of hold off on the dues for right now. But then the next question is, when do we want to make a commitment?
Make a commitment for what?
For what we're going to do with dues.
Before dues are due. I mean,
well, you have to people.
Are you looking for a date? Are you asking about
we've got to have a date that we're going to pull the trigger, because people have to have time to pay the dues. So we can't wait until September 30th.
They're doing October, right?
September the 1st, maybe?
They're officially due in October, so why don't we say we have to decide September 1st?
Okay.
They just be 4 weeks, or 31 days, that ought to be enough.
Okay, how about we do the 30th? How about we have an officers meeting on Monday the 30th at 8 o'clock? And we'll make the decision then. Or we could do Sunday night.
August 30th?
Yeah.
August 30th at 8 p.m.
Does that work for everybody?
Hang on.
That's going to be a Friday evening?
No. August the 30th is on, oh no, I can't do the 30th.
Or so I'm sorry, no, it's not Friday. Yeah, you're right, it's not Friday.
So can we do?
It's a Monday.
Yeah, I can't do the 30th though, but how about the 29th at 8 o'clock? Can anybody do Sunday the 29th at either 8 or 8:30?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. I think so.
Okay, so would 8 or 8:30 be better for people?
Call it 8. Make a decision.
You said 8 o'clock p.m.?
Yeah, 8 o'clock. Let's do 8 o'clock. And that'll probably be that's going to be the only piece that I think we're really going to be dealing with is that, and excuse me, perhaps looking into September if we want to plan a date for trying to do an outdoor meeting. I guess those would really be the only two things at that point. The club contest would already be concluded. So
I have two recommendations for club contest. I have Lee, you pull that speech out as per Humorous, and Mark Schroeder, you just pretty much do that speech you just gave for Tall Tales.
Until you actually watch the YouTube video, you don't know how much I
you can exaggerate a little bit more.
Unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to compete. So that day, oh well.
Yeah, but we may end up, if we don't have contestants, we can end up just sending you as a representative for our club.
Oh, that's what I mean. No, I don't think.
Oh, for 9/11. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Understood. So everybody else, start thinking about that. Karen, you can do it again, or nothing.
Well, that took a lot of work. That took a lot of work.
You know some of the ins and outs now, and you know your style and stuff like that. So. And obviously, Mark Sims, you've been around that block, a couple of times, I think. Justin, you can test that out, test some of your skills there. John,
yeah, the Tall Tales.
The dust off the moss balls for that.
Tall Tales is a good one for beginner, I think.
Or for Mark Schroeder and El Jefe.
There you go.
Can't do that. It would have to be a fictional product. I'm not allowed to actually advertise a real product, probably.
That's okay. You can do it. I know you can put a little label on there.
Oh, is that the truth?
Yeah.
Can't
probably.
advertise a real product, huh?
Well, I do know Toastmasters, being a nonprofit, is not supposed to endorse any actual products. There is that 401c, 401c3 or whatever.
Gotcha.
501c, whatever it is.
Nonprofit, yeah.
Yeah, nonprofits are not supposed to endorse products.
And Lee, did you say our meeting is August 29th, 2021 at 8 p.m.?
Yeah.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, so basically I think what we'll end up doing is, just for simplicity's sake, kind of as Mark Schroeder alluded to, we'll probably just discuss if there's enough interest. We'll just discuss maybe possibly a date that we would try an outdoor meeting if there is the interest, and then the thing about the dues. So just be thinking about dues and what we want to do. Although I think that the answer is going to become pretty obvious if things are, later in August trending upward, then clearly neither one are going to happen. So,
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so for now then, Mark, I guess you want to just let Corey know that we definitely won't be back for the month of August. And then we'll consider a date in September possibly.
You're on mute, Mark.
Yeah, I put myself on mute for other reasons. I'm fine with that. If we got lucky and went back to orange, I would at least call the question to reconsider. But until it goes orange, I don't see that happening.
Oh yeah, I mean obviously, yeah. If they change it to orange next week, then yeah.
I don't see it happening, but
truth be told,
I'm good. I'm good with that as an interim time to reevaluate, short of it going back to orange.
Yeah. Okay. And then obviously, if it did change back to orange, even next week, probably it would be better to meet online, just so we don't have a sudden switch like we did this week.
We don't want to yank people's chain back and forth too much.
But
that's why I even wondered if we wanted to go ahead and meet this week in person, and everybody said nope, because we were switching as of Tuesday night for Thursday.
Yeah, the difference is we'd had the vote though, and it was clear in the vote.
We had the vote. It was more a matter of being able to reach people.
Yeah. All right. With nothing else, I'll go ahead and just give the winners of the meeting. So the best speaker and best big three goes to Mark Schroeder. And the best evaluator and the best able topic recipient is Justin. So
yay.
Congratulations, Mark and Justin. All right, y'all have a good night.
Hey,
Good
Lee,
night.
I have one question.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Regarding TLI, I know that it shows that you had at least gone to one hour. Did you end up going to both hours or no?
I didn't think I went, but
you didn't, because it's showing the way that they have it set. It shows as if you attended 1 hour, whether it was combined or something else. So you didn't go to any of them, is what you're saying.
Well, tell them I went to the one on the Wednesday.
Well, it won't matter. No, I'm not. If I can have it changed if I know what date and what hour you went to which class. So, if you have those and you did it, if you didn't do it, then you didn't do it. I mean, I'm not going to go through that mess. But
hey, if they gave me partial credit, just say, yeah, I went to the other half. You just forgot to sign in.
Yeah.
I'll never know.
They will now because it's being recorded. You didn't tell me to stop recording.
Yeah, it's true. It's all like we're stuck.
Hey, Rob?
I will say this. Hold on 1 second, Karen. They're promoting divisions to have their makeup TLIs. So there's likely going to be TLI makeup sessions coming up probably later in August, I would imagine. Maybe early September, probably later in August, in which case I'm just, I'm area director. So I'm trying to get like all of the clubs 100%. And we're not far away. So,
well, truth be told, what happened was I had already signed up and everything. And then I got bogged down in homework and I just looked at the clock and was like, oops, I missed it. So
gotcha.
Anyway, but if there's a virtual, then I would probably do it. I won't go to face-to-face with it being read.
As far as I know, they're still doing it UTD in person, but
not
Karen,
face-to-face.
Right. I don't think a lot of people are. I think it's going to be a sparse crowd.
If they're smart, they'll just change it.
Yep.
Do you have a question, Karen?
Yes, I did, Rob. Did they, when you looked at the TLI, did it show that I had registered and completed everything? Oh, that's good. Okay, I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Yeah, she was in the hospital, so she probably wasn't there either. But
I think she went to the early one.
Before that.
Yeah, she went to the early one. Yeah, everybody in it was just you that looked like it was just one hour away. So anyway, good job to everybody.
All right.
All right, I'm going to go ahead
Okay.
and at least stop the recording in 3, 2,